Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Dr. Andrew Neville. It's good to see you all. We are here to do a live Q&A on adrenal fatigue, one of the most misunderstood yet most common conditions that's out there today. We're going to talk all about it. I've got a list of documented questions, which I'm thrilled about. Lots of questions, which is neat and exciting. But if you are live, by all means, ask away. You can type those questions into the comments. Okay, so I've got a couple things to talk about. So I'm thrilled you're here. Likely, if you're here, you have questions, right? Somebody mentioned adrenal fatigue. You heard of adrenal fatigue. You saw my YouTube channel, maybe you had testing. Maybe you've been struggling with it for years and not necessarily getting where you're going, or you have questions. You've tried lots of other things, right? You've tried chasing after some of these secondary problems, looking at the symptoms, things like that, which is really the most common method that conventional medicine and alternative medicine that's the direction they tend to head in. Well, quite likely there's an underlying cause of a lot of that noise, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Adrenal fatigue is incredibly misunderstood. If you haven't healed as of yet and you're here, it's not your fault. You haven't failed to heal. Those programs or those practitioners have failed you. With the right information, accurate information, and timely guidance and support, you absolutely can incrementally get your life back. It's a shift. It's a process. It absolutely does happen. I see it happen all the time. So hang in there. If you find yourself kind of nodding along and agreeing or hearing me say things that resonate with you that nobody really else gets, it's because we get it, because it's a real condition, because it has real patterning, right? And certainly real consequences, sometimes dire consequences. I mean, sometimes not dire. All right, let me not go in that direction. But disabling, dysfunctioning for sure, sometimes disabling. You know, I get patients at all levels of functional capacity. So welcome, ask away. If you are here, I suppose if you are here, you're listening, you are here, let us know where you're from. We're curious. We got patients all over the world. If you're international, if you type in international into the comment section below, you'll get a link to some of the packages that we provide. Legally, I have to say that this information is for educational purposes only. This content is not intended to substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your medical doctor or healthcare provider with any questions you might have regarding a medical condition. That said, I will answer your questions to the best of my ability. In general knowledge, I can't give you dosing instructions and things like that. You're not my patient. But I can talk in generalities and I can guide you. I've been doing this a long time. If you are a patient in one of my current programs, either my Core Plus program run by my coaches, or if you're working directly with me, welcome. I encourage you to get as much education, listen in. Some of this stuff is new. Some of it we just have to hear over and over and over again until we get it. If you have a question, you could submit it. But this conversation is much more for the public and general public. If I have time at the end, I'll try to do my best to answer those questions. But you have opportunities to ask us either in the group sessions or with one-on-ones. All right. I think that's pretty much it. Oh, my team will be putting in the comments section, they'll be putting links, right, to our new Facebook group, Adrenal Healing Hub, which is amazing. My coaches run that. They are providing very, very practical and interesting tips. I love to go on that group, to my private, open to the public, but private Facebook group, Healing Adrenal Fatigue Holistically, to the YouTube channel. Even if you're ready to have a conversation about where to go next, as far as, you have a couple questions about the programs, or you can get a complimentary call with my patient coordinator, Christine. So we'll put those links in the bottom. Thanks for that, Suzanne. Now, let's get to your questions. There's a bunch of them. I do everything I can to answer the questions. I try not to talk so fast because most of my patients have brain fog, right? And it's hard for them to follow along, but I also want to try to get to as many questions as I can. So if you miss it or if you didn't get it, I apologize for speaking so quickly. But go to the recording, right? Go to the recording, check it out, and generally works out okay. So I'll do my best. Okay, with no further ado, Jess says, can healing the gut heal the adrenals? No. And I was taught this in naturopathic medical school. All disease starts in the gut. When in doubt, heal the gut. Here's the problem with that thinking. The gut is run by your nervous system. What part of your nervous system? By this dysfunction we're talking about. So if you haven't heard me talk about this, you can check out my YouTube channel where I talk all about this. But adrenal fatigue is really a broken stress response system. There's three pieces of it: the limbic system in the brain, okay, central nervous system in the brain, the HPA axis and the adrenals, and then the autonomic nervous system, again, part of the nervous system. That autonomic nervous system, especially the vagus nerve in the autonomic nervous system, runs your gut, top to bottom, mouth to anus. I mean, it runs the muscular contractions, sphincters opening and closing. It runs your stomach acid, your enzymes, your gallbladder, your liver, everything. You can throw everything you want at the gut, fancy probiotics, hydrochloric acid. You could do glutamine. You can do all these gut healing things, treat the candida, treat the food allergies, all this stuff we're chasing. If your vagus nerve is shut off because your body is still stuck in fight or flight, you're only going to get so far if you get anywhere at all. So the way I enter into the gut problems, and the vast majority of my patients have them, I had them, is aim for the underlying cause, right? Ask this question. Ask why. Why do I have persistent gut questions? Why have I been chasing after candida for 10 years and it keeps coming back? Why do I have food allergies and I keep losing more and more and more foods? Why do I have belching, bloating, indigestion, refluxing? Why? That why goes to the control mechanism of the gut, and it's in the hands of your stress response physiology. Stop suppressing, and this is a seesaw. I mean, this is how it works, right? You're either in fight or flight, or rest and digest should be in balance. We're stuck in fight or flight, which means rest and digest is shut off. So the vast majority of the time, I focus on this underlying cause, this mechanism, treat that, get this to balance out so that we're not suppressing the gut anymore. And then I don't even have to treat the gut. I know it sounds crazy, right? And I know other doctors, how they treat this, and they're chasing after what I refer to as these secondary dysfunctions, all your immune problems. Let's chase after all the infections, right? Let's chase after all the allergies. Let's chase after the histamine issues, things like that. Let's chase after all the gut, all the stuff I just talked about. Oh, it's your hormones. Your hormones are off. That's the problem. Ask woman, why is that the problem? Why am I a menstruating woman and I have all this PMS? Why is my progesterone off? Why am I estrogen dominant? Why PMDD? Why do I have all these things? Stress hormone suppresses the hypothalamic pituitary ovarian hormone axis and thyroid. Ask one more why, fix that, and you don't have to chase after those things. So good luck, Jess. Sarah says, can shingles trigger EBV, Epstein-Barr virus? Okay, so these are all herpes family viruses. Shingles is varicella zoster. When you're younger, it gives you chickenpox. When you're older, it gives you shingles. Can they trigger one another? No. It's getting easy. No. They're associated, but not causally, right? So can they come together? Yes, it's possible. So herpes family viruses, we get infected. There's like 8 of them. Herpes family, 1, 2, 3 is 3 is varicella zoster, 4 is something called CMV, cytomegalovirus, then Epstein-Barr. These are ubiquitous viruses. They're everywhere. Everybody gets them. And they never leave your body. That's the nature of herpes family viruses. They never leave your body. They lie dormant. So what happens is, with Epstein-Barr and with shingles, is when our immune system becomes suppressed, number one reason that immune system becomes suppressed is because of stress. Not just stress. Stress is a tough word. That's a longer conversation. We can talk about that. But if your stress response system is broken and you have adrenal fatigue, we get stressed over nothing, right? This limbic system starts to over-perceive its environment as dangerous and threatening. So we make mountains out of molehills, right? Other way, mountains out of molehills. When we become stressed and we then suppress our immune system, there's a shift in the immune system. Now we're vulnerable. Any latent infection can reactivate. So they're connected, but one isn't going to trigger the other. And I would suggest you can do some temporary treatment on those things if they're truly reactivated, but don't go crazy trying to fix those issues. We've got to fix the immune system problem, which is stemming from the adrenal fatigue and that suppression. That's the key. Okay. Lori says, after an emotional upheaval and a lot of stress, can the adrenals make my body and bones just ache? 100%. 100%. There's a subset of symptoms, right, that we rattle off all the time, my team and I, that are directly related to stress physiology, fatigue, pain, insomnia, brain fog, weight, anxiety, depression, blood sugar problems, blood pressure problems. So when I think about symptoms, I never really look at the one symptom. I look at the pattern of symptoms. And when people have that pattern of symptoms, if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. We know what we're dealing with. It's adrenal fatigue. It's not mold. It's not Lyme. It's not Epstein-Barr. It's not Candida. It's not my food allergies. It's not my histamine. Those are associated, not causal. If we want to define cause, I would go back to the adrenal fatigue and the stress physiology, which allows for all those other secondary problems to flare. And I know that's different. I get it. I know everybody's, and this is tough because you start hearing it's your candida, it's your candida, it's your candida, it's your candida. Eventually you start to believe it, right? Or it's all in your head, it's all in your head, it's not. It's not. There's an underlying cause of these problems. That's why you're not getting fully better when you chase after that stuff, despite what your well-intentioned practitioner is telling you. So, pain, for sure. Stress hormone, cortisol, and adrenaline sensitizes the nerves, sensitize the entire nervous system, even the limbic system, even the sensory nerves, right? So a lot of my patients will come in like, doc, I'm sensitive to these bright lights. Loud sounds bother me, harsh chemicals and smells, even touch, right? Think about fibromyalgia, right? So fibromyalgia is a diagnosis of chronic pain. 11 out of 18 tender points where you elicit pain with 4 pounds of pressure per square inch. Who cares, by the way? Unless you have research or you got to write down a code, that doesn't tell me anything. What it tells me is if you touch one of my patients, they hurt. Why? All those signals are amplified in the limbic system and in the brain, so we feel pain. There's other mechanisms, but 100%, Lori, it's connected. It's connected. Okay, Shirley says, have you seen high reverse T3 associated with adrenal fatigue? If so, why? And what can you do to remedy it? Yeah, so number one reason for high reverse T3 is adrenal fatigue. So I was saying earlier, right, that stress physiology releases stress hormones eventually, right? Limbic system, HPA axis. Okay, now you dump a bunch of stress hormone, cortisol, and adrenaline, which then goes all over the body in the blood supply back to the hypothalamus and pituitary and its thyroid axis, right? HPA, HPT axis. And that stress hormone suppresses those glands at every level it possibly can. Everyone. It even convinces the thyroid to release an inactive form of thyroid hormone. Just in case it missed suppressing anything else, let's release this inactive form of thyroid hormone called reverse T3 to bind up receptors to block any thyroid that we missed so that it doesn't activate the cell. That is the number one cause of reverse T3. So how do you fix the reverse T3? You fix the adrenal fatigue. Okay, how do you fix the adrenal fatigue? Well, that's what we're talking about. I mean, I've got an entire YouTube channel with hundreds of videos on it about it. I put people through 6-month programs to fix this thing. There's no one thing like, okay, how do I fix it? What supplement can I take? It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Do I use them? Yes. The way you fix it is find somebody to help you put together your puzzle. your therapeutic puzzle with relation to this problem, not chasing symptoms, not chasing extraneous secondary, tertiary problems. The puzzle for this broken stress response system, fix that. And then the reverse T3 takes care of itself. Okay, Jen says, what is your main help for a gut yeast infection if a patient cannot tolerate nystatin? Well, I don't use nystatin, nor do I chase after yeast very often at all, because it's an opportunistic infection, right? Just like Epstein-Barr is an opportunistic infection. We've suppressed the immune system. Now Epstein-Barr flares. Happen to me all the time. Same thing with Candida. It just happens to be connected to the suppressed immune system and the gut, right? When you suppress those things, you can't not create dysbiosis. You can't not grow Candida in that kind of a situation. In my programs, I used to run a couple of tests. I only run one now, but one of those tests was a food allergy test. It was an IgG ELISA test, and they would have on there an IgG ELISA for Candida, right, the most common yeast, and invariably it would show high. And I would have to tell my patients, I don't care. I don't care. We're not going to go crazy chasing after it because it's not going to fix anything. It's just going to come back unless we fix this underlying problem. So what do? I've got a protocol that I share within my program. Let's just make it uncomfortable. Let's just don't feed the Candida sugar. Let's maybe you take a decent probiotic, and that's a whole nother story. Try to find one of those, right? And then increase coconut oil in your diet. That's it. Make it a little uncomfortable. Coconut oil has some antifungal, anti-yeast properties. That's pretty much what I do. I put all my effort in fixing the underlying problem, then eventually we don't have to chase after the Candida again and again and again. It's not that it's not there. It's not that I'm saying these things don't exist, right? Even the Lyme, the mold, the Epstein-Barr, like these things exist. They're real, but there's an underlying reason. When you continue to chase after these things, all you're doing is scooping a little layer out of the bucket. Okay, let's get rid of the Lyme or Epstein-Barr. Okay, but that bucket's going to fill right back up again, and now you're back in the doctor's office. I'm not about creating customers. I want to fix the problem. Okay. So Nita says, my eyes are getting blurry with my glasses. Pardon me. Dear Dr. Neville, I'm now taking Celtic sea salt in water and food. Notice I'm not waking so frequently to pee at night. That's how it should work. On my Tanita scale, my hydration is still low at 48%. I'm 60 blood pressure. Okay. So can drinking coconut water improve cellular hydration levels, or can eating complex carbs help to retain water to please? In the core program, okay. Did the core program, and you and your team are the best. Well, thank you, Nita. I appreciate that. Speaking of the core program, so the core program is the foundation really of my work. It's what everything else is built upon. So I was talking about this puzzle, right? There are some key central pieces of this puzzle, and that's what that core work focuses on. Some people, self-motivated people, when they do that core program, they can incrementally get back on their feet because it is the foundation. Everything else follows after that. So that core program is a self-led program based on the advice I used to give patients who used to come and stay with us in our guest house, for weeks to months. I've processed that and put all that information. We've organized that. We've re-released that this year. And there's a progress session in there. So the space is limited until Labor Day. That core program is $297. The price is going to go up to its standard price at $497. And it is the foundation of what I do. I can't express enough how essential that piece of the puzzle is. It is huge. And that's what Nita did, or at least started. Okay, so the adrenals help you to hold on to salt, right? They control your sodium and potassium balance. Depending on the test results and symptoms, we can tell, do I need more sodium or do I need more potassium? What I will tell you is that most patients in my programs need more sodium than they do potassium. They work together, but they need more sodium and then potassium. It goes back to this hormone in the adrenals called aldosterone. Again, go to my YouTube channel to check out more information about that. So the issue there is that we kind of use the salt, and then we use some symptoms, right? Frequent urination is a common one because water follows salt, right? If you can't hold on to salt, you can't hold on to water, you're going to pee it all out. That's going to affect blood volume, so it can make you lightheaded. So we watch those symptoms as I gently increase salt in a person's diet or water. I don't use coconut water because it's all potassium. That's mainly what it is. Very little sodium and a ton of potassium. I find that most patients don't need it. Hydration is much more about the sodium. I can't speak to the accuracy of your scale. What I would do is just watch the relativity of it. And, I defer to increasing, I lean towards salt more than anything else. And no, I'm not a fan of carbs. Okay, Sarah says, I have so much heart fluttering, arrhythmia, and even when I feel pretty good otherwise, also mild dizziness that hangs on. Are these simply the last symptoms to go? Would consistent relaxation exercises help? Well, that's probably an easy one to answer, Sarah. Yes, consistent relaxation exercises are a key to healing this condition. An absolute key. Again, part of this foundational approach. Now, it can look different for different people, but these relaxation exercise has to be consistent, mind-focusing, passive relaxation exercise. And one of the things that does is helps to rewire the limbic system. It's an essential component. So heart flutters and arrhythmias, there's lots of different reasons for those things. It could be sodium potassium balance, could be autonomic nervous system type stuff. So you probably have to get checked out. I can't comment necessarily on those things. You can go to your local doctor or if you want help, it's okay to need guidance with this stuff. Core helps, like I talked about, which is great, but is it everything? No. It's a self-led kind of a thing. Most people, and I was just talking to my team about this earlier today, what we do better than anyone else. And I can say that honestly, because I field patients on a daily basis. I know what they've tried. I know which program they've tried. I know who they've been to. I know the world famous clinics that they've been to, right? I know the testing they've done. And then they come to me because they're still not better. Maybe temporary improvement, but still not significantly better. What we do better than anyone else is guidance and support. And because it takes that guidance and support, that frequency of contact that we get with patients. I spend hours with patients in individual sessions and in group sessions. And so do my coaches. Hours talking to patients, guiding patients, helping them to reassess, helping them to understand what does healing from this condition look like? Because it's different than anything else. It's not one drug for one disease. It's not that paradigm. That doesn't work for this, right? And you get some doctors, well, I'll just give you St. John's wort instead of Prozac for your depression. Same model, same paradigm. Nicer, but it's the same. It doesn't work that way. You got to ask one more why. You have to fix that underlying problem, and that's what we're good at. So whether it's the core program, the one with my coaches, or me, and if you have any questions, by all means, leave a question in the comment section. Suzanne can post something for you. Debbie says, my morning cortisol is under 1. Oh, yes, dangerously low. Besides being on hydrocortisone, how can I increase my cortisol? I don't have Addison's, but adrenal insufficiency. Okay, Debbie, so there's a ton that people with Addison's and adrenal insufficiency can do that conventional medicine just ignores. The adrenals are only part of this problem, right? There's pituitary issues, there's hypothalamic issues, there's autonomic nervous system issues, there's limbic system issues. Even with the adrenals, there's so many other hormones besides cortisol that need to be addressed and supported. There is a ton you can do. I will tell you, so I've had patients with Addison's and adrenal insufficiency go through my programs. They do have to go through my program because we're dealing with medications, and that's a little bit of a higher level types of interventions that we have to watch and pay attention to, but there's a load that you can do to help support what the hydrocortisone is doing. And at least, even if the adrenals can't come back, sometimes they do, but even if the adrenals can't come back, at least you could stabilize, stabilize your dosing and bring the rest of your physiology back into balance. So it's much easier to live with that condition. What I would say is, if you're curious about that, reach out for a patient coordinator call with Christine, and she can kind of talk you through those options. There's a lot you can do, though. There really is. Sean says, is a teaspoon of coconut oil enough fat with each meal? No. It's getting easier. No. So a tablespoon of coconut oil is what, 14, 15 grams of fat? That's that's a tablespoon. So if you ate that 3 times a day, I guess, then you're getting up to a tablespoon. Now, if you ask a conventional dietitian who doesn't like saturated fat and believes saturated fat should be, 20, 25% of your diet, then they might say yes. I disagree. When you look at the dietary guidelines, what you have to do is follow the money. Food pyramid, it's it's been influenced. It's been influenced. We need to take the money out of some of this stuff. Processed food industry. There's a ton of misinformation out there. So I tend to prefer, I recommend hypoglycemic diets for a lot of my patients. You want to lower the carb. You want to get a little more protein and fat. I tend to prefer animal protein and fat, which you didn't mention. I'm not sure why. Animal protein and animal products come with protein and fat. Just don't get the low fat stuff. Don't fear saturated fat. Saturated fat is good for us. Saturated fat has cholesterol. Every one of your adrenal hormones is made from cholesterol. It's essential. The number one reason cholesterol goes up is stress, right? Who talks about that? As soon as we get stressed, the liver makes more cholesterol, puts it onto an LDL, deliver it to the adrenal gland so we can make cortisol and fight the tiger. That's why LDL is bad, because the liver is increasing the cholesterol in the blood. And then HDL takes the remaining cholesterol, brings it back to the liver. So that's why HDL is good. They're not good or bad. They just are. We need cholesterol. It's essential. Don't lower it artificially unless you're in some dire condition. Even if I didn't like you all, I wouldn't recommend a statin drug for you. Okay, Kadra, I have tinnitus. Is it related to adrenal fatigue, and would it be okay to see a vestibular physiotherapist? 100%. Go see a vestibular physiotherapist. Check it out. I don't know how they treat tinnitus. Tinnitus is just ringing in the ears, which is, it's funny. I just had one of these questions on my group calls today. Tinnitus is kind of a neuroinflammatory process. It could be triggered by a variety of things. All my patients have inflammation of the brain, right? Your adrenals are your anti-inflammatory, and that's what stress hormone does. It causes neuroinflammatory process. In fact, I was just on, I don't do much social media, but I kind of check out Reddit sometimes, and there was a chronic fatigue syndrome group where this guy, Jared Younger, who's a PhD, he looks at all the research and everything, and they were confirming neuroinflammatory responses in CFSME, which is, I want to say, duh. We've known that, and we've been treating that for years, and it does, and you should, and you need to. So part of the tinnitus is that neuroinflammatory process, and I've seen it go away over time when you treat the underlying cause. Okay, I lost my spot. Yeah, got it. Okay, Jill says, is it correct to say that unless you have your fight or flight stress calmed down, then all other forms of healing will not take place, or is it just a longer process? I find myself falling into the same scenario every few weeks because I let things go when I feel better. It's when I fall into a cycle of comfortability or into the same rut. Yeah. So welcome to the human race, Jill, card-carrying member. That's what everybody does, right? We put all the pieces of the puzzle together. I do it for my patients in the programs. Put all these pieces of the puzzle together. They start to shift. They start to feel better, and then they let out the reins a little bit. So one of the things we do in our programs is teach them how to not do that, right? And there's a learning curve with that for sure. Again, because we are fighting human nature, right? Human nature is tilted in the direction of fight or flight. Like we're better at fight or flight than anything else. That's our survival mechanism, right? Like if we were better at rest and digest, we all would have died out thousands of years ago. So it is our default mode, fight or flight. And then there's some other tendencies in humans. Most of us, as we feel better, we let out the reins. I mean, I can motivate anybody. They'll do just about anything I say when I first get them because they're miserable. And they're like, you want me to stand on my head? You want me to do, what do you want me to do? So that's motivating, right? As we feel a little better, we start to let it out again. There are certain things that are critical to hold on to, other things you can let go eventually. And once you do heal, and it's incremental, right? The functional capacity incrementally heals or improves. Once you fully heal, you don't have to micromanage quite as much, but there are some things that you do want to carry with you long term. So it's natural, right? It's natural. It's normal. You know, ideally, what we're looking for with all my patients is you want to find things, people, experiences, supplements, whatever it may be, that turn on this rest and digest physiology, because that's where we heal and repair. So I tell my patients, calm, peace, serenity. Find calm, peace, serenity, and anything that brings you there, do more. And anything that takes you in the other direction, if it can be modified, do it. Mitigate it, eliminate it temporarily, modify it, however you can, right? So it's normal, it's natural. Learn from it. Learn from it, Joe. Okay, Darlene says, I do crash about 3 p.m. or have Hold on. I do crash about 3 p.m. or have responsibility early in the day. Makes me tired. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, there's other reasons for that. Sometimes it's blood sugar stuff. You know, sometimes my patients have run out of their daily allotment of energy by 3 p.m. and they kind of crash. My recommendation is, so on my website, I've got a symptom assessment tool. It takes 4 or 5 minutes. You plug yourself in, you answer these simple questions. It'll spit out a result telling you the likelihood of having adrenal fatigue, and then some resources. You know, go to my YouTube channel, check that out. It could be, right? It could be when people ask me about one symptom, it's hard to say, is it this? I don't know. Could be. It's connected to a lot of different things. So check that out. Start with the symptom assessment. YouTube channel is a great place to go to. Nettie says, I would like to know what practices I could be implementing daily to be able to increase my ability to work more. I implement a lot from Dr. Neville's videos, but can't seem to get back to work full time. Programs. So I implement a lot from Dr. Neville's video, but can't see. Yeah. Well, guidance and support, Nettie. Guidance and support. It's in order to, the patients used to come and stay with me at our guest house. They'd be in my office every day, a couple weeks, a couple months. No stone was left unturned. I mean, we hit everything. We were able to figure out what their puzzle looks like, because your puzzle is different than theirs, is different than mine, is different from the next patient's. Everybody's puzzle is a little different. And, you know, we start with this work and working on the foundational stuff in the core program, and that'll give you some guidance as to, okay, so these are pretty important puzzle pieces, check these out. But like a lot of people need guidance and support to figure out what the rest of the puzzle looks like. So I'm glad you've made some progress. That's huge. And that you've gotten started, you know, but if you need more, if it's not enough, then you need more, right? Guidance, support, and probably testing, proper interpretation of the testing. And that is key, because I've seen the tests. So testing for adrenal issues is basically your salivary testing. I only like one lab that has a variety of values on there that I use, but it's got to be properly assessed, because I've seen these tests, believe it or not, improperly assessed, and patients have not been able to move forward because of that. So it's the testing, proper assessment, and again, somebody that can help you put the puzzle together. I mean, that's really the key. My coaches run the Core Plus program. So the one that I'm in is called Healing Transformation. So that's a 6-month program. Patients that are a little more complex, I will still work with for the time being. I'm still there to work with those patients and kind of and guide them through that. A little more complex, like I forget the name, but Addison's adrenal insufficiency, things like that. I've trained coaches, so coaches that have been patients, they've been through my program. They've had previous health coach training, nutrition training, degrees, things like that. And I saw something in them right away that I wanted them to work with me. So then I put them through my adrenal health coach training program. These are they know more about adrenal fatigue and fixing it than any doctor that you could possibly go to. Truly they do. And they are the most compassionate people. They understand, they get it, and they can guide you. That program works. So I get that my program is out of reach for some people. That's why I trained my coaches and I created a successful bit of a step down that works so well. So that's called Core Plus. Again, if you have any questions about it, just reach out in the comments. Okay. Kat says, is kidney disease related to adrenal failure? No, Kat, probably not. But if you were to go to take the symptom assessment tool, if you have any of those other symptoms, then you might have adrenal fatigue. When we have adrenal fatigue, the problem with that is our body is stuck in fight or flight. And what fight or flight does, so fight or flight is stress physiology. It causes increased wear and tear in the body. And that wear and tear is in the form of free radicals. And free radicals are like little electrically charged molecules that they go into the blood and they bounce around and they nick and damage tissue everywhere. It's in the blood, right? Head to toe, inside and out. So now we've got increased wear and tear. And guess what? The healing and repair is over here. That ain't happening. So too much wear and tear and not enough healing and repair, that's not a good equation for good health and well-being. Could that contribute to kidney disease? Sure. So what I would say is check out that symptom assessment tool. It's very possible. Okay. All right. Angela says, postmenopausal, all sex hormones super low on saliva testing. Can reducing stress response help adrenals to produce their own hormones after menopause? Typically, how long to see a change? How long is variable, Angela? So stress physiology, right? Stress physiology suppresses your hypothalamic pituitary ovarian hormone axis, right? That's going to cause different symptoms, pardon me, premenopausally than postmenopausally. But there's a strong connection. And again, this is one of these things nobody talks about. Postmenopausally, most of your ovarian hormones, they're coming from your adrenals, not your ovaries. Women have been going through menopause for thousands of years without fancy hormones, right? Synthetic or bioidentical. The ovaries are designed to gradually lose their function, right? And then around 50-ish, 45 to 55, they're at a very low level. Well, the adrenals, during that same time, the adrenals start to increase their production of those same hormones. That is designed to ease a woman through menopause without a hitch. Anytime a woman talks to me, postmenopausal, we're talking about symptoms, hot flashes and fog and all this stuff, vaginal dryness, all of it, or you're talking about low ovarian hormones postmenopausally, that is 100% an adrenal problem. This is well documented. The challenge here is that, I don't know, a lot of doctors don't even know it. That's the first challenge. The other challenge is it's hard to fix this. It's easy to prescribe hormones, right? And now you've got a customer. Hey, keep prescribing the hormones. And you might feel a little better, but you're not going to fix the underlying problem. And if the underlying problem isn't fixed, let's say you have hot flashes and you take some hormones, it helps the hot flashes. But if you still have adrenal fatigue and you're still stuck too much in wear and tear, right? Taking those hormones or even taking, medicines or herbs to cover up symptoms, it's like putting a little piece of tape over the check engine light in your car. You might not see it, but you haven't fixed the problem and it's going to get worse. So yes is the answer, Angela. How long? I don't know. Not that long. Depends. Okay. Leela says, I feel like I'm the Walking Dead daily. I've heard that before. It's like my body is alive, but brain feels empty and blank, disconnected, body and brain separated. Why do I feel this way, and how can this be rectified? Leela, you rectify it by fixing this problem. Throw a bunch of stress hormone into the brain, and this is what happens. You can see anxiety. You can see depression. I'm not crazy about those terms because those terms, we have learned those terms to be a purely psychological problem, and they are not. Right? Because again, if you dump a bunch of adrenaline and cortisol in the brain, you're going to see those problems. When you remove those things, those problems go away. Right? They do this with rats. When they study rats, they put them in a model of restraint stress, and they call it chronic, unpredictable, mild stress. Rats in a box. The rats don't like to be in boxes. Rats stressed out. Rat develops rat depression. They don't press the lever for food. They don't press the lever for sex or whatever else. Take the rat out of the box. Stress hormones go down. Depression goes away. No therapy, no antidepressants for the rat. I mean, you put disassociation in there, this disconnectedness, this is common stuff. Fix the underlying problem, and that goes away. That improves. And it starts with the foundation. So as I build a protocol for patients, I picture it, it's like a pyramid. Right? And it's foundational, right? You can't start at the top of the pyramid. Top of the pyramid, drugs, surgery, right? If I'm thinking medical hierarchy, we got to start with the basics, right? In and around the lifestyle dietary. That is the information that is in my core program, right? I'm going to mention that one more time. That core program is the foundation of the work that I do. All my patients have to do that. That core program is that's what I work with patients on a lot. As I work them through my program, that's what the coaches that I've trained, that's what we work on throughout this process. We can expedite the process in our programs, but you can work on this stuff on your own. And again, that core program it's going to be $497 come Labor Day. There's a space issue, $297 plus a discount even for, I don't know, today, I think they told me, right? $297. I mean, I can't overemphasize how crucial that is. I've had patients, and look for the testimonials, look for people talking about it. They're like, I'm getting better just with your core program. They never saw me. The foundation. Start with the foundation. Okay. Dieter says, I have a severe case of CRPS, craps. No, complex regional pain syndrome. Could this help with neurological issues from my CRPS? Yeah. So what I was talking about earlier, Dieter, was that stress hormone upregulates the nervous system. It makes it trigger happy. Every part of the nervous system, every part. Most of the research, and part of that conversation, there's a term called central sensitization, central for the central nervous system. So you can look it up. It's been researched. I don't know, they'll still call it a theory, but it's a pretty darn good theory. Central sensitization, stress hormone in the brain upregulates the nervous system. Most of that research is on pain, but it happens throughout the nervous system. I see it in the sensory nerves, like I said earlier. I see it in the autonomic nervous system, the enteric nervous system. We see it peripheral nervous system, right? So my patients they feel everything like to the nth degree. My patients feel their organs work, for goodness sake. Like nobody feels their pancreas. Nobody feels their kidney. My patients do. You're not going to feel your liver. My patients do. And they also have what we call paresthesias, weird nerve sensations, weird patterns, temporary, transient, right? Burning, numbness, itch, tingling, all kinds of stuff. So yes is the answer. Okay. Braden says, what was Dr. Posnecker talking about when he mentioned Dr. Bechetti's licorice root extract in his book? Is this a product you can purchase somewhere? If so, where? Great question, Braden. Boy, that's old school, the Bechetti licorice that we used to use. All right, so Riccardo Bechetti was an engineer from Italy. He had severe adrenal problems, and he basically used hydrocortisone and high strength licorice root to get him out of it. Licorice supports cortisol. It's excellent at it. You just got to use a strong enough product. So we named the licorice that we used to get, we called it the Bichetti licorice. We had a powder and a capsule. The supply of that dried out, so we haven't used that for a long time. But we have a very strong licorice on our shop site that I use for patients. It is medicinal strength, very effective. I use it on a daily basis. Not with everybody, and you got to use it at the right time as well. So that a lot of that depends on testing, things like that. But that's what Dr. P was talking about. Kareth says, typically when I take adaptogens like ashwagandha, theanine, rhodiola, they don't help, sometimes make me more anxious. I've found the same thing, Kareth. I do not use adaptogens in my practice. Very, very rarely, because I find they overstimulate people. And that was surprising to me. I studied all kinds of herbal medicine when I was at Bastyr, and I figure, all right, I'm going to specialize in adrenal issues. I'll be using holy basil, rhodiola, ashwagandha, ginsengs, all that kind of eleutherococcus, right? I'll use it all the time. Well, lo and behold, when you actually use them in real people with real problems, most of the time it overstimulates people. So I leave it out because I don't want people overstimulated. It's not the right way to go. So I suspect my cortisol is high, low, low. What do I do if I have both? Yeah. So when we get these tests back, we will rarely see all high cortisol levels or all low cortisol levels. Most of the time, the curve is erratic, right? High here, low here, that kind of a thing, which is really indicative of a middle stage of adrenal fatigue. That's just what it is, right? Which means your HPA axis and your adrenals, it's lost all of its fine-tuning mechanisms. So it's not that you don't want to chase after the high-low cortisol and time things like super specific. You have to fix the overall problem, because you got to remember the adrenals, they're just the end organ of this entire system, and they're just being told what to do. So tell the adrenals to do the right things, right? So it requires testing. And again, I would dig deeper if you have questions about, further guidance. Obviously, you have adrenal problems because your cortisol is up and down. You may need appropriate guidance, and that's what we do. So reach out. Again, we have the call. You can get a call with the patient coordinator with Christine. Complimentary call. She's the most compassionate person. She'll listen to your story and figure out if things are a fit. And trust me, I don't want you if you're not a fit. If you don't have adrenal fatigue, or if there's some weird red flag that says there might be something else going on here, I don't want you a patient, because you're not going to be happy and we're not going to be happy, right? So I will screen people for this process, because this is what we do well. Now, it's attached to a lot of different things, and it's at a causal level to a lot of different problems. So we get a lot of different conditions, but I've seen all that stuff, and my whole team, they know all those things. Shannon says, what happens if your body can't take the salt due to making your blood pressure high, swelling in the feet? Yeah, so this happens sometimes, Shannon, with salt. Depends on the stage of your condition. Sometimes it's how the salt is handled. Part of the problem in every cell, there's these little sodium potassium pumps. That's one of the reasons salt is so important. Sodium is, it's the most abundant mineral that's out there. The cells have hundreds and thousands of these sodium potassium pumps. It controls everything. But the cells are often damaged from those free radicals I was talking about earlier. And when those cells are damaged, those pumps don't work very well. They're kind of leaky, and we don't handle our sodium and potassium as well as we should. So sometimes we're always working on healing the actual cells themselves. So sometimes it's a more gradual process. Some people are just super sensitive to the salt, and occasionally we can, use a different kind of salt, right? There's a variety of those unrefined sea salts. So sometimes that helps. But sometimes it's just going slower. And ultimately, the reason we need the salt is because of the adrenal problems and that aldosterone, and that we can fix, right? So if you can only handle a certain amount of salt, just fix the adrenals better, and that'll help because that's what should be helping your salt. Like, you shouldn't have to eat all this salt. The only reason we do temporarily is because of this adrenal problem. So fix the adrenal problem ultimately. Okay, Nancy says, have had bad digestion patterns, problems, but histamine diet has helped. Good. How do I reset my central nervous system? Doing mindful meditation seems to help, but still feels like my body's stuck in fight or flight. Yeah, so good. So again, histamine to me would be one of these secondary problems. And low histamine diet is not unreasonable, but you'll have to do that forever unless we fix this underlying problem. It's not just about resetting the nervous system. That's very faddish these days, right? Everybody wants to reset the nerves and nervous system regulation and everything. That's a part of the stress response dysfunction, but only a part. There are 3 parts that have to be addressed. You have to address the HPA axis, you have to address the autonomic nervous system, and you have to address the limbic system up in the brain and rewire it at all. Meditation it's just about putting all these pieces of the puzzle together, Nancy. I mean, that's what it is. Put enough of the pieces of the puzzle together all at the same time, and this physiology shifts little by little. And when that happens, the symptoms decrease in intensity, frequency, and duration. But that's incremental, right? Again, I'm not giving one herb for anxiety or an herb for brain fog or whatever. We're fixing this underlying problem. So it's an incremental shift. And as that happens, people feel more of themselves. Now we're not suppressing the immune digestive systems and hormones and things, and those have a chance of normalizing on their own. That's what we see. I mean, I see it, day in and day out, and it doesn't have to take that long. It starts to shift, within 4 to 6 weeks. When I have my initial follow-up with patients, I see that shifting. I want to see that shifting, and most of the time I do. Sometimes it takes longer, but okay. Nettie says, how often do you recommend doing relaxation exercises? As often as you possibly can. Consistent mind-focusing relaxation exercise. I don't know. This is probably out there in my stuff. So 20 minutes twice a day. I don't start there. I start with 10. This is hard, right? Relaxation exercises are hard for all my patients. And all my patients on that first call follow-up, it's like 4 to 6 weeks in. They're like, oh, I'm not real good at that. I'm like, I know. Nobody's good at it. We are all terrible at it. Nobody's taught us to do this stuff. Just try. I'm just happy you're trying. Now try harder, right? Now, and it gets easier over time. Consistent mind-focused relaxation exercise. I start with 10 minutes. When somebody gets to 10 minutes, I'm like, awesome. Pat them on the back. Now do 15. And then I'll see them again. I got 15. I'm getting better. Okay, awesome. Good. Now do 20. So 20 minutes twice a day is good. More doesn't hurt. I've never had anybody overdose on relaxation exercises. Okay. Dieter says, my doctor just put me on is that progesterone? Pro and test cream to help me with my extreme fatigue. And I think listening to this podcast makes me feel like my problem will not get fixed until my adrenals are balanced. I'm interested in this program. Yeah, Dieter, good for you. Good for you. So first thing is call, look for, Suzanne will post the process, right, to talk to my patient coordinator, complimentary call, have a conversation. Yes. That's basically my answer. I don't mind like bioidentical hormone replacement. I don't mind it, but it doesn't fix the underlying problem. Like I'm always pushing. I drive doctors crazy because they'll tell me like, what do you mean? I'm not supposed to they got low hormones. But why do they have low hormones? Right. But I'm just going to treat their allergies. Why do they have allergies? I'm just going to treat their gut. Well, why is their gut so messed up? Even thyroid, like ask that one more why. They don't like it. They don't like it. And patients don't really like it sometimes either. It's just a different way of thinking. Good. Reach out to us, Dieter. Happy to have you. Okay. Ash says, given your experience with over 7,000 patients, what's a common non-obvious trigger for a relapse in a patient who seems fully recovered? Common non-obvious trigger. Oh, come on, Ash. It's all about, I don't know if I'm going to be able to come up with something on the spot, but what it's all about is me and my team working with patients, balancing this physiology, right? How do we balance that physiology? Make space in the bucket. We only have one stress response, which means every stress goes into that same bucket: physical, mental, emotional, chemical, toxins, a car accident, trauma, abuse, traffic, relationships, divorce, whatever. It's all in the same bucket. We have to create space in the bucket. Number one, scoop. If you can identify any controllable stress, scoop it out. Poke as many holes in the bucket and then expand the bucket to its greatest capacity. That's a little more my job. That creates space in the bucket. That allows for tolerance. That allows this physiology to shift, decrease the wear and tear, turn on the healing and repair, and the body heals itself. I don't heal anybody, but I set the body up in this physiologic space, in this epigenetic balance, where now you've turned on the healing and repair in every cell, organ, and tissue. The body heals itself. During my programs, they learn how to live their life where there's space in their bucket, whatever their functional capacity is: 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100%. You could be at 90% humming along doing things, and if you didn't learn how this thing works, you could overdo it and you could have a problem. So my patients don't. Okay. Kelly says, are adrenal patients more sensitive to EMFs? Adrenal patients are more sensitive to everything, including EMFs. So 100% yes. Yeah, we're just sensitive. I mean, that's it. Even Dr. Posnecker said way back when, if you had to use only one word to describe an adrenal patient, that word would be sensitive. Again, check out this. Like, can I say you have adrenal problems if you're EMS sensitive? No. Check out the symptom assessment tool on my website. Catherine says, does vitamin C, I'm sorry, it's so fast. Does vitamin C help with rapid heart rate? Vitamin C helps to clean up after cortisol indirectly, maybe. It's not something that I would target and use directly for a rapid heart rate. So I would say no. Darren says, I noticed when I'm in the sun, it drains all my energy. What do you recommend for this? Yeah. So part of that, so the heat intolerance is kind of a hallmark of this condition as well. And part of that goes back to blood volume and the salt and the water. And part of it goes back to our autonomic nervous system having to adjust and deal with these things. So I look towards salt. I look towards balancing those things and just being cautious, right? Just, kind of doing it, doing it incrementally and just listening to your body. That's the biggest thing. If you don't feel right doing something, don't do it, or do less of it, right? Do less of it. That's the key. So I've been doing this for 24 years now, almost. So 23 years. I've been doing this for 23 years directly with patients. Again, thousands of patients. So I've given a lot of advice. Now, my advice now is better than it was 23 years ago. So my patients hear they call them pearls. I don't know if they're pearls, but it's one of the things I say all the time is you want to listen to your body because your body never lies. Your mind, however, will lie at the drop of a hat. We can rationalize, justify, we can convince ourselves of everything, right? But I should exercise. It's healthy for me. I know I crashed again because I exercised, but I got to exercise, right? Listen to your body. Your body will always guide you through this. Okay. All right. So I am thrilled to be able to provide all that information. It's important. It was really important for me to understand what the heck was going on with me. And I wanted all the answers, every answer I could possibly get, which puts me researching constantly, working with patients and doing all this work. We are committed. I have committed my life and my life's work to this problem, to patients just like you. We're good at it. And I would suggest that we are better than anybody else at it. We really are. Read the testimonials. They are real. Join my Facebook group and my Healing Adrenal Fatigue community. Those are real people. Check out my coaches, right, on the Adrenal Healing Hub on Instagram. These are real people talking about their real experiences. What you see is what you get. So my patients now, they'll get in front of me and they're like, you're just like you were on YouTube. I'm like, I don't know how to be any different way, right? So if you don't like me now, Don't join in. Maybe use YouTube for the information, but I am who I am, and this is what you see is what you get. Okay. This works. This works. We have a variety of levels of support, and I've created these lower levels of support because I can't stand that money gets in the way of patients feeling better. Yeah, it costs money to see me and to work with me for hours on end and for 6 full months. There's effort involved, right? It's taken me a long time to build this program and garner this expertise in this process. But I don't like that people can't get it, so I created the coach program. Right? Even that, I get that it's a reach for some people. So I created the core program, the foundational approach, right? The foundational piece, multiple pieces of that puzzle, but the foundational piece. Again, that'll be $297 with a discount only until Labor Day. And then it's going to go up to the price that we had originally had it at. I want to get this information and this level of care into the hands of as many people as possible. So even that step will help if that's all you can do, right? If you want to speed it up and you want more guidance and support, most people need that. They don't know they need it, but they need that. Then you want to think about having a conversation about one of the programs. But if this is all you can do, it absolutely will help. So I hope something made sense today. I hope you learned a little something. You want more information, go to my YouTube channel. But if you're ready to have a conversation, reach out. Reach out. We're here. All my best, everybody.